Jeff. I'm going to see if this works. Sorry, I had a little bit of technical difficulties there. Anyway, I'm just checking in to see how you guys are doing. I want to cover for Jerry Powell, who's out of town, taking a nice, well-deserved break. And I just want to continue his vibe of what he's been talking about, which are ceremony stories. Now, at Rhythmia, the reason why we use the word ceremony is because we have an ayahuasca protocol that we're using during our week-long program. And ayahuasca is it's an indigenous substance from Latin America, mostly the Amazon basin, that we use to help people connect with themselves and help people plug into who they are as individuals. Now, this is a very strong modality that exists to help people get past things, and it's something that's very helpful to people if they feel that they're stuck in their life. A lot of people have treatment-resistant depression, and they've been to therapists and they've been on meds forever. And a lot of people have, you know, they've tried all kinds of different retreats and all different, workshops and all these different places and things, and none of it's ever really worked. So, what Rhythmia does is Rhythmia helps the people connect with themselves, get rid of historical trauma, and then plug back into who they are as individuals. So, the series that Jerry's been talking about are called ceremony stories, and I want to share one of mine. And Jerry asked me to talk about maybe something that was like really profound for me, and it was that when I think about my deepest experience that I've ever had on ayahuasca, there's a lot of things that come up, and I thought that one of them could be I could talk about this one particular one that most people maybe could relate to or have in the future if you want to try ayahuasca. And so what it is um, in the process of drinking this substance, they have what's called a pinta, and a pinta is something that is a visual, and a pinta can show up in a lot of different ways. You can have pintas of memories, or you can have like a screen show up in front of you that has sort of like your life in front of you, or maybe the past, or things like that. And it's your subconscious mind working through things that have not been resolved yet. And one of the pintas is also this kaleidoscope color pattern that occurs and that we see, like kind of like a kaleidoscope. You look through it and see all those colors, and there's a lot of art, a lot of psychedelic art that shows these patterns. They look like mandalas and a lot of bright colors. And I wanted to know like really what that was, because it was it's a theme in ayahuasca that people have these things happen and see those patterns when they close their eyes or sometimes when they open them. And what I found was that there are a lot of journal articles published out there that show that three substances create these patterns. One of them is LSD, a different psychedelic that's not used here. Another one is psilocybin, another psychedelic that's not used at Rhythmia. But DMT, which is part of the ayahuasca plant, a natural DMT substance, yes, is. And that's part of what we have here. And so that also creates these visual patterns. And the research shows that in the default mode network of the brain, which are various regions of the brain that have to do with where your resting mind sort of sits. And you've been in that spots before. You're in it all day. It's kind of like when you're driving somewhere to work and you kind of like are just in this mode of not really thinking about much, and all of a sudden you're at work. Well, that's your default mode network working, and it's just kind of where your brain falls to naturally. Now, in that concept of your default mode, there's concepts of order and disorder. Order are things that are orderly. Like, for example, I'm speaking for Jerry's Facebook Live today, and this is orderly to me. It makes sense. I'm talking, you guys are listening, and I have a topic. So that's an orderly concept I can understand. But a disorderly concept, and not a bad concept, I don't want to make it sound like disorder, it means wrong, but disorder or chaotic or unpredictable is a better word, would be when I go outside and I'm in beautiful Costa Rica. That's where Rhythmia is located. There's all these jungle trees, and it's been raining a little bit, and where the raindrops are falling and the wind is blowing and the leaves. And I don't know where I can't predict where that's going to be. Now, while it's beautiful and I'm sure it's predictable to nature, it's unpredictable to me. I don't know if the lightning is going to strike at a certain time or whatever. So that's a concept of disorder. Now, on the substance of ayahuasca, when you're sitting with it and drinking it, these two concepts come together and they connect, and they bump up against each other, order and disorder in your consciousness. And what happens is that's the moment where there is this color pattern that shows up about this kaleidoscope. And what does it mean when that happens? Well, it represents a concept called synaptic plasticity. Now, you guys have probably heard of that before. That's where your brain is moldable and you can adjust certain neuron pathways and your mind can shift and move to benefit you. Now, a plastic concept in neurobiology means that it can shift and change. So, neuron plasticity or neuronal synaptic plasticity is just that. So, for example, if I am always afraid of dogs for let's say because I was when I was a little kid I got bit by a dog. Well, I don't want to be afraid of dogs anymore and I want to and every time I see what a dog I immediately have fear. Well, that's a neuron response and a an ingrained pathway of that I feel because of a historical event of being bit. And every time I see a dog, even if it's a little puppy, I get scared. So I don't want to have that anymore. I want to have an intention that is different. I want to like dogs. I want to be around dogs. I want to have a dog as a pet. And my kids want one, so I want to have one too. So I want to get past the fear. So I drink ayahuasca. I go into the ceremony. I think, all right, I don't want to be afraid of dogs anymore. Again, this is just an example. And then the surface, what happens is the amygdala part of your brain is accessed and it's plugged in to the parts where you've stored up this subconscious pain and this fear. And it's you've pushed it there since you were 5 years old when you got bit. Because when you're getting bit, fear doesn't really help you. You have to behave and you get into fight or flight mode. So you push the dog off or you run. And if you had fear in that moment, strong fear, it would freeze you up and lock you up and you couldn't survive. So the fear got pushed away. So now you drink ayahuasca, that fear surfaces. And there's a receptor in your DNA called the sigmar-1 gene, and that turns on a receptor in your neurobiology that accesses the amygdala. And then these emotions of fear surface. Now, what happens is with those colors and those patterns in that the kaleidoscope little visual stuff that you have is that indicates that you're in the synaptic plasticity window. That indicates that that's the time to set intentions. So one time, and this to stay on the theme of the story, right, of the Facebook Live topic, the ceremony stories, I had a visual of this a pinta of this kaleidoscope, and it was patterns and colors, and I was like, wow, but I was feeling kind of like it was making me a little dizzy. Nothing was really surfacing, like no emotions. I was just feeling uncomfortable. But I remembered the data I had looked at and the research I had looked at, and I said, all right, okay, so I was going through a lot at that time of my life. I was working a lot. I was stressed out. I was not taking care of myself. I was doing what I usually do, which is take care of everybody else. I had a baby on the way. I was exhausted and ready to prepare for this new child, and like, which was exciting, but also stressful. This was several years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years, actually more than that, 5 years ago. And so I was like overwhelmed and in my life. And so my intention going into the ceremony was what do I need to do to get connected and stay focused with me? That was my goal. So what I did is I had that and I saw those visuals. I saw the kaleidoscopes. I said, all right, I'm just feeling nauseous. Nothing's coming to me. What do I need to do? What am I here for? And I sat and I closed my eyes and I thought about it. It's like, what help me connect with myself, help me have clarity. And as soon as I did that during that kaleidoscope pinta moment, a list of things popped up in my mind that I need to work on. And they were very clear, extremely direct. And they came out of nowhere, it seemed. And I don't know where they came from, but they came from maybe my higher self, maybe my subconscious, maybe God, maybe the plant medicine itself, maybe nature. I don't know. I have no idea where it came from, but it was something very profound and it was impactful. And what this list was very, very simple stuff, very common sense in a way, but stuff that I needed to hear in that moment when my brain was moldable and able to accept the shift. And what it was number one, get back in the gym and continue running. And I don't like to run, but it said run 5 to 10K every day. So lift weights, run, get back to your martial arts, and I do jujitsu and other things. Stop drinking alcohol. Do not drink not a drop of alcohol. And I didn't have an alcohol problem per se, but it was becoming a habit that wasn't productive for me. So I just like said, all right. And then listen to your wife when she has concerns about XYZ instead of just trying to fix it all the time. Just listen to her. And I was like, wow, those are all pretty simple things, but They're profound, and they were coming at me super hard and clear. So what I said to myself in that moment, I said, "All right, I'm going to accept that list. I'm going to do that list right now, starting as soon as tomorrow, and I'm just going to get on it." And this was almost 5 years ago. And so what ended up happening is I did all those things. I stopped drinking alcohol. I got back in the gym. I continued my jujitsu. I listened to my wife more. I started running 5 to 10K every day. What ended up happening was my blood pressure dropped to a very healthy level. My resting heart rate is of an elite athlete right now. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, it's pretty cool. I'm 55 years old. And to have that health thing is really helpful. And then I run 10K every day and I do jujitsu a couple times a week. And I don't drink alcohol, like I said, and I've dropped about 80 pounds, which is crazy. So like just living a healthy lifestyle, I shed off all this baggage practically and metaphorically to be able to be present. And so I'm happier and healthier because of following that list. And that's the kind of experience you can have with ayahuasca. And that's a lighter version of one because those are all like healthy, positive things, like they're nice. But there's been plenty of situations for me in ceremony where, I had to face some darkness that I had in my life, or some pain that I had never resolved, or some things that I went through as a little kid that I just never really thought about and were impacting me. Because that's the thing, like when you go through stuff in life and you don't deal with it because you're just too little to understand it all. You went through some trauma maybe, or some fear. And then you're an adult now and you're like, that was, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. What does it matter? Well, it might not matter. It might not matter, but it will matter if you find yourself not trusting people, if you find yourself just not happy, if you find yourself with an alcohol issue or a substance abuse issue, if you find yourself with some depression or some anxiety, or if your relationships are struggling, that might have been affecting your historical issues might be a problem. And that's where, when you go, I just talked to a guest this morning, and he said he had a really, really profound night last night. Last night, Monday, was the first night of ayahuasca for the guests for the week. And he said, man, it was brutal. It was like I have faced my demons. It's been 50 years of pain that I've been holding on to. And I said, yeah, like, what did you do to prepare? He said, well, I've been in therapy for 20 years, but I could only access a certain amount of stuff. I said, yeah, it kind of gets to like where you hit a brick wall in therapy and you really have to go into your amygdala and you have to get in there and drum up this emotional pain. Now, there's arguments lately for not doing that. And that's valid if you have a happy life, if you're content, if you feel successful and you're connected to people and you have trust, then yeah, maybe you don't need to drum up, historical traumatic stuff. But if you're feeling uneasy about yourself, if you have a substance abuse issue, if you don't know what's happening for you, and you've been to therapy and just none of it seems to be working, you probably have some unresolved historical trauma. And so you can work on it with this program that we offer at Rhythmia. So that's a big part of what we're doing. So my ceremony story is, if you connect with yourself, if you drink this medicine and you have this moment of clarity and you follow what you're being guided to do, and it's your higher self, it's your unbiased belief system, it's your mental blocks out of the way. If you do that, then you will have success in your life because it's you and it's unique to you and your own process, your own it's this is such an impactful program because it's not about someone else doing the work for you or me telling you what you should do or what. It's just, you know what you need and you're doing it for yourself. You went through those times from your perspective, and only you know how to fix it, and only you know what you need. And so that's what's beautiful about this, is you get to do it. So it's empowering and it gives you that personal sovereignty that we like to talk about at Rhythmia. So that's my ceremony story for today. Thanks for watching. And I apologize that Jerry's not here, but he's doing what he should be doing, which is relaxing a bit. He still works anyway, a bit, but he needed a well deserved break. So thanks for watching, you guys, and pura vida, and enjoy your week. And hope to see you at Rhythmia sometime soon. There's our number right there. Give us a call and book your stay. It's a week-long program. Thanks.